Now that's an old tune. It's what you call. It's called "Ask My Father." It's the class of tune that's known as a jig, and the essence of a jig is simply this: diddle dee diddle dee diddle dee diddle dee diddle dee diddle. I wonder if you could help me out with that, ladies and gentlemen. Could you do this now? Diddle dee diddle dee diddle dee. Keep it going now. Oh, you're getting the real hang of it. That's the real. You're getting the real Celtic flavour of it. Now that's the stuff. Now the thing is, now naturally, it's got a name to it. You see, Ask My Father, and naturally, there's a little short story attached to that name, which naturally I'm now going to try to tell you. Concerning a man who went to seek for a job of work, and in seeking for work, he employed that near mystical sixth sense which throughout history has prompted people like myself to get into folk music for the money. And in seeking for work, he carefully avoided all large towns. He steered straight as an arrow for the loneliest moorland road he could find. There was a little cottage high on the hillside. And he knocked on the door open, and standing on the steps of that small, tiny little house, there was an old man. Long locks of white hair were drifted down about the two heels of his feet, and great white eyebrows like bottle brushes on him. And the fella says to the old man standing in the doorway, he says this, now you say it after me, he says, "Any chance of a job of work?" You say that. Any chance of a job of work? And the old man says, "Work." Oh, he says, "Work." He says, "Not like I couldn't use a hand about it. I could use a hand. I could use a hand about the place." He says, "There's some mornings," he says, "my back is killing me. He's like knuckles." He says, it's, you know, it's a lot for an old fella like me to manage. You know, he says, "But he says it's not up to me." He says, "You'll have to ask my father." So you say that. He says, "Where is he?" You say that. "Where is he?" "He's round the back digging potatoes." So he goes round the back of the house, and sure enough, here's an even older man. He's bent near double over a brown iron spade. He's hiking the potatoes out of the ground, and he's spudding them here, he's spinning them there, and the fella goes up to the old fella with the spade, and he says to him, just like you would, he says, "Any chance of a job of work?" You say that. "Any chance of a job of work?" The old fella says, "Work!" He says, "Work!" He says, "Why?" He says, "I'm never done telling that useless boy of mine. One day I say to him, my boy, I say to him, one day you will turn around and you will say, where did my life go? But all he does is sit around all day long, doing nothing but just twiddle his thumbs." He says, "But it's not up to me." He says, "You'll have to ask my father." He's up on the mountain cracking rock. So he climbs the hill above the cottage. He climbs the slope above the hill. He climbs the scree above the slope. And then halfway up the cliff above the scree, there's a wee small man about the size of 3 bags of walnuts tied together with baling string. He's got a 9-pound hammer and a 10-inch spike, and he's whacking away at the rock, and he's knocking off 15-meter slabs of slate in an orderly manner down the hillside. And so the fella calls up to the old man up on the cliff, and he calls out to him, "Any chance of a job of work?" And the old man up the cliff said, "There's no one alive today knows the bloody meaning of that word hard work, he says. Here's me, sweat and blood trying to keep life in those useless boys dead. He says, but it's not up to me. He says, you'll have to ask my father.
Where is your father?
He's in an egg cup in the kitchen. So he climbs back down the hillside, back to that little cottage, and inside that cottage, there's a little set of 3 wooden shelves up against the wall, what you call a Welsh dresser. It's the kind of Welsh dresser that was made as long ago as 1978. Hand distressed by being flogged with chains to give it that real antique look. And the woodworm holes put in by hand. And on the second shelf of that wee Welsh dresser, there's a little china egg cup, there, what you use for putting a boiled egg in. And it's got these words written on the side, a present from Aalborg. And he calls into that little china egg cup, like you would, and he says, and out from that egg cup comes a little tiny voice, no bigger than the voice of a fly. Work, ha ha. Work, ha 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 ha. Not up to me. You'll have to ask my father. He's not here. He's getting married today to a young woman. Holy Mary and sweet St. Joseph, what does the old man want to get married for at his age? He doesn't want to. He has to. And that's the way that story just grinds to a halt. Except for the old clincher known as the 3 ages of man. The first age of man is, my dad's better than your dad. And the second age of man is, shut up, Dad. What would you know about it anyway, you old dithering old soul? And the third age of man, as my old father used to say,